guest for today's Touch Base in Seoul is Arnold Hur, who used to work as an analyst for the investment banking giant Goldman Sachs and then as a business development strategist for Google. However, in 2017, he joined a company in an industry that he saw huge potential, and that industry is esports. He joined Gen.G, a leading esports organization and team that has headquarters in Seoul, LA, and Shanghai. And last year, he was promoted from Chief Growth Officer to Chief Operating Officer, and has been leading the charge in not only growing the company, but also how esports is perceived as well. To tell us more about his endeavors, Arnold Hur has joined us now in the studios. Mr. Hur, it's great to have you with us.
No, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
So, as I said, before you joined Gen.G, Goldman Sachs, Google, that's quite a CV you had. What led you to the world of esports then?
Ever since I was a little kid, I loved gaming, right? And even in high school, I would go and play in PC bongs out in LA and everything else. But I never really thought that I could make a career out of gaming. When I was going to university, my first thought was, hey, how do I go and what's a job that makes the most money and these kind of things. But, throughout the entire career, when I started my career at Goldman and, did some work there, then moved over actually to BCG. So I worked at consulting for a while. Then I tried to do a startup of my own, actually. Unfortunately, even though he's my best friend, I'm probably not going to work with him again. I got into hundreds of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt on this startup idea that I had. But back then, I fell in love with tech. Right, I fell in love with technology, doing a startup of my own. I thought about how technology is changing the way we perceive the world, as well as what opportunities are being created. So that's actually what led me to Google. So I guess short story is, first I started out in business and finance and operations. Then I moved over to a technology-based startup. Then I realized that, hey, you know what? I want to learn what it takes to really grow and build a startup. So I actually joined and ran Mimibox US at really early stages as they were coming out of Y Combinator. Then after, it got pretty successful, it got pretty big, kind of wanted to come back into one of the passions that I've always had, which is gaming. And the funniest story is Kevin Chu, who is the chairman and founder of this company, actually found out about me because at Google, I used to play in these League of Legends tournaments internally at Google. And I was the only mid-senior business guy playing against all the engineers.
Right.
And so I got this weird reputation as this business guy that's always hanging out with all the engineers playing League of Legends. And so he heard about me, one thing led to another, and now I'm here sitting in front of you talking about gaming. So I don't exactly know how it happened, but I'm glad it happened.
He sought you out, and it seems like a perfect fit. You're not a gamer yourself. You're a gamer yourself, but you're not a professional gamer.
Oh,
right?
I'm horrible. I struggle. I always like to pretend that I can be decent. I think platinum is usually the highest level I can go before, one, I run out of time to actually do it, as well as I just don't have the skills. But I think that makes me appreciate the pro players even more.
Tell us about Gen.G, the company you joined, and what you do there as well.
Yeah, sure. So Gen.G is a global esports organization, and we've got esports teams all around the world. So basically every single top game, whether it's League of Legends, Valorant, Fortnite, Overwatch, whatever it is, we have a top team in those games all around the world. We're really unique, though, in that we've recognized that the opportunity is in really two areas. One is the global nature of esports. We really view kind of the capitals of esports to be in LA, Shanghai, and Seoul. And that's where we set up kind of a global infrastructure, really crossing that east and west boundary. The second part is that we've kind of seen an opportunity that's really unique, where kids that are really, really talented in gaming, a lot of them are coming actually from Seoul, now are beginning to realize, and parents are beginning to realize, that they can actually get into an incredible university program, because universities in the US are actually looking for future star esports players and now awarding scholarships actually to do that. So that's where, our focus is that we're really excited about this opportunity. We really want to change and shift the culture, especially here in Korea, of how they view gaming as something that, especially on the parent side and older generation, that this is actually an incredible way for their son or daughter to create an incredible career, whether it's being a pro player, being a content creator, marketing, finance. We just think there's so much opportunity here, and we want to try to shift the culture and perception of what gaming can do.
Can you tell us why are colleges interested in getting gamers to their colleges? What's in it for them?
A couple things. One, they recognize the opportunity of connecting kind of the sports side, the esports side. So just like you would want a really talented golfer or really talented basketball player, you want to try to bring those folks in because they can come in and compete at the highest level, in front of a really big stage, bringing a lot of reputation into the university itself. The second part, and this is kind of undervalued, what they've really recognized is that a lot of U.S. campuses, there's a bit of an international divide, right? You have the people that, born and raised in LA like me who hang out and do the intramurals and are fully integrated into the campus. But a lot of times, especially for international students that come, they aren't as fully integrated with the campus at the university. So one of the things that they've noticed is that through gaming, they're actually able to connect these different dots together. So basically when you're playing League of Legends, for instance, you're yelling at the guy, and no matter what language it takes to come over and help you. And they want to create more of those meaningful connections and try to invest in the infrastructure in order to be able to do that.
And then your company, Gen.G, has this program now, doesn't it? The Gen.10 scholarship that has linked US colleges to your program?
Yeah, so one of the things that we've really been excited about is, we've launched this year the Gen.10 scholarship. So what this scholarship is we recognize that there's a lot of folks that are trying to get into university and are looking for more opportunity. And figuring out how they can utilize their passion and skill in gaming to get into one of the top universities in the world. Now, a lot of universities are now offering esports scholarships, believe it or not. And even if they don't, they actually are now considering your esports credentials and gaming credentials as part of your package, just the same way if you're really talented at violin or really talented in golf, that even if you're not Tiger Woods, they'll actually admire that that's part of your application as a complete candidate, right? So for us, we wanted to kind of supplement whatever isn't available on the collegiate side and try to promote the future leaders of the industry. So we've actually committed $1 million, $100,000 every year for the next 10 years to award 10 students every year, or 10 aspiring collegiate students every year, to try to help them make that transition and become the future leaders of the industry.
So for your company, it's really important that you're not just at the top of the ranking tables in the games, but you're helping more people and esports become more accepted. But esports, for many people who are unfamiliar, it'll still be quite foreign. It'll still feel quite strange. How would you introduce those uninitiated with esports, with how it's growing? How would you explain it to them?
I kind of think of it as... Yeah, I agree. Right now, it's definitely on the fringes of a lot of mainstream culture. But, it's really interesting. Every single story you hear and every single time I talk to an organization, and you always find one person that understands this deeply, but they just haven't had the platform or the mainstream acceptance to really talk about it at the dinner table or at lunch or 회식. We just had this story here where I think one of the people here on the editing side was actually a huge gamer,
right?
And loved esports, but you guys probably never knew that, right? So I think it's been a little bit more hidden before, and now we are recognizing the opportunity by actually partnering with some of the largest brands in the world. So Hansung, Mercedes-Benz, Puma. We've done a partnership with Heron Preston, who's our executive brand advisor. We've actually done music collaborations with PH1.
Oh, wow.
Baekhyun came by from EXO and did something. So across the board, we're finding those pockets of people that have already been playing games, but by connecting with them, we can kind of show the world that, hey, it's already happening. It's just a matter of us in the mainstream recognizing that this is actually really, really happening and it's about to be uncovered.
You said you're based in Seoul, Shanghai, and LA. Seoul and South Korea is still there's a real hub here, isn't it, for esports?
No, this is really the mecca. This is the center of esports around the world, and it's incredible just how much attention worldwide and admiration and respect that people have for Seoul, for Korea, and for gaming in Korea. And so everybody, every single pro player loves the fact, even out in LA, we actually have some French Canadians on our roster in LA, and they always talk about, hey, Arnold, like once this craziness is over, can you please get us to Korea? I've watched so many Korean dramas. I've looked at the food. I want to go there. Is there any way that you can get us into Korea whenever this is over? We'll do conference, we'll do meetings, whatever it takes, right? And so I think, just the same way that people view music in Korea or now film in Korea as a leader, this same trend is now happening and Korea is taking its rightful place, I think, in kind of the gaming hierarchy.
One thing I also want to briefly touch upon before we finish as well, you also making a lot of efforts into improving players' lives after retirement from esports as well, right? That is important for people who are looking at esports saying, oh, it's just for kids, but there's more to it than that, right?
Yeah, so, one of the big things is actually two parts of that, actually. First is I want to lengthen the career that somebody has within esports. So right now, you have a lot of these young kids coming in. They're not taking care of their health. They're not taking care of their mental wellness. And a lot of times, these organizations will come in and just use them for whatever talent that they have. Us, we actually, sometimes it's really hard, but we actually give every single one of our players a personal trainer. Like one of my favorite players, who he actually just re-signed. He actually lost 25 kilograms. Doing a personal trainer. And it's funny because these personal trainers are gigantic, like bodybuilders training us. And so we really care about the physical side, but also the mental wellness side. So we work with sports psychologists. We actually have an MOU with Yonsei University. And now we're partnering them to say, hey, how can we promote wellness? What is the leading thinkers in wellness, and how can we actually bring that in to our players? So how can we really lengthen the cycle of what a pro player and how long they can be pro? And then once they're done and once they retire, one of the things that we're trying to do is actually transition them into streamers and content creators, or even some business staff. So we've had coaches that actually have come and joined the operations team. We've had players that have now become streamers and content creators and influencers. So that transition is really helpful because we believe that our mark here is to create the future leaders of the industry, and it's going to be a virtuous cycle if we do that.
Well, Mr. Hur, we're out of time, unfortunately, but it's been great to have you on the show today. And it's been really interesting to learn about esports and how the industry is growing and how it is really growing up as well. We've been speaking with Arnold Hur, the COO of Gen.G esports. Thank you for coming in today.
No, thank you very much. It was a blast.